Well, hi everybody. This is Angelo Quinones and you reach I Am Ministries. I Am Ministries is designed to give you plentiful and accurate answers that come straight from God's holy and inspired words of the Bible. So it's kind of a prolonged design there. And I actually got that from Star Trek. So that idea is designed. It was the guy. It's like the Roman emperor. Scotty Kirk. And before we get the full reconstruction of this immaculate Russ. You know what I'm saying? And so I got that it's designed from that show. I don't think I ever saw the title before though, but they went to a planet where they were mimicking the Romans. Okay. And they kept on saying the sun, the sun, the sun, and then Kirk, Spock, and McCoy thought that they meant the sun up in the sky, S-U-N. I was talking about the Son of God. That was revealed, at the last part. But the Roman emperor actually said, "Well, you can do that, but it's designed, So I know you could destroy us off the face of the globe, but the thing is that this code or whatever is designed to do this, and so you can't do it or whatever. I don't know. But I will give it an episode from 1 to 10. I'll give it give it like a 5. Speaking about 5, we got 5 Greek words in John 1:1a. So let's read that along with the other parts. The standard pronunciation or the American style pronunciation or the biblical pronunciation first, okay? Energy in halagos, kai halagos in prostantean, kai theas in halagos, okay? Energy in halagos, kai halagos in prostantean, kai theas in halagos, okay? Don't say logos, okay? I mean, we all get into that because we're just... most of us are American speaking people, and then, we were born in the United States, even though I relocated to the Philippines, and my English is getting horrible. It just really is, okay, be imitators of me, well, that's just imitating the English of my family over here now, staff family, if you will. Energy in o logos, que o logos in prostonteon, que te os in o logos. Energy in o logos, que o logos in prostonteon, que te os in o logos. Okay, so that's the modern pronunciation, and we got into it. We got also into the dangers. Okay, this is part 2 of the 20-minute segment that I recorded earlier. So I guess I could connect this with that in the future. So I guess that's the future tense formative sigma, that means synchronized or whatever. It could be a liquid future. I got to check out the Oxford Dictionary of Greek, And so that's just the deal. So we got into a lot of stuff the last time, okay? Even though we only spoke for about 20 minutes. Okay, this is the mega series, okay, a full Greek construction series, where every single of us comes into discussion, Greek-wise or Hebrew-wise, that has to do with dealing with the witnesses, the so-called Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, I even painted some scenarios for the witnesses. So I'm a nice guy. Okay, so what I'm saying? I'm a very cheerful, jolly, sort of Jackie Gleason type of guy, throwing people out of the house when I need to throw them out of the house and keeping them here, okay, when they're good, when they clean the table and stuff like that. But the thing is that is nowhere to be found in this text. In the beginning, God created the Logos. That's one, best case scenario for witnesses. 6 different, but the 7th is a repetition of one. I used to have like 6 or 5, but I added one recently. In the beginning, God created the sun. That scenario is not found anywhere in the Bible. That's number 3. But let me give you number 2. En arche egeneta halagas. In the beginning, the word began to be, or began to exist, or emerged. That's not here. That's number two. Number three, I already kind of mentioned it. Energe epoyasen hate as tan huion. In the beginning, God created His Shen. That's not here. Even a lesser blow. A lesser blow will be something like this. In the beginning was the Son. Okay, we could deal with that. With some Trinitarians that believe in the eternal sonship, as the Greek P being spat out by me. Okay, of Jesus. I can deal with that. He was not a creature. He wasn't created. He didn't have some sort of beginning. He was just always the Son. I don't know how you explain that. I disagree with Tertullian. I disagree with him. Documents of the early Christian church. I mean, disagree with that. Walter Martin disagreed with that too in the eternal sonship of the Son. Okay, we're not saying that Logos wasn't eternal. That's not the point. The point is that we don't believe in the eternal sonship, okay, of Jesus, that He was always the Son. Okay, but we can deal with that because so there are some Trinitarians that believe in that. It's not true, but I mean, but at least He didn't have some sort of beginning in that scenario. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3 are just blasphemous. Okay, number 4 is wrong, but I mean, Number 5, in the beginning was the angel, and in ha angelos. Well, I mean, and in ha angelos. But so what? I mean, I can deal with that if that was there. He is the Word, and the Word gives messages. So He is a messenger. I mean, He made Christophanies in the Old Testament. So I mean, I guess He could be an angel in that sense of being a messenger. The Names of God Bible, which is a terrific Bible, okay, really showcases the word messenger a lot for angel. You understand what I'm saying? Especially in, I think, like, what is it? Jacob wrestling with the angel, or wrestle with the messenger. And then I think Hosea sort of repeats that story, right? I forgot the chapter and verse, but I mean, I think that Hosea does that. And one of the minor prophets, I have to get back to that and see the full Greek construction of that, because that does come into play, okay, with the witnesses. So I guess that could be the next thing that I could do. But I mean, but so what? The book of Ephesim, what's that? An Apocrypha? No. A book of Ephesim. Ephesim means Ephesians. Im is plural in Hebrew, right? And so the mem, the full construction is im, right, or im, or whatever the case may be. But it's like susim, horses, panim, faces, or whatever the case may be. Cherubim, that class of angel in the plural. Elohim, that's plural. And then seraphim, like that. So I mean, but Malach is found in the Hebrew New Testament in Ephesians chapter 1 verse 1, translated from the Textus, translated from the Textus Receptus by G.G. Collier and T. Frey, Frey, Collyer, way back in 1817. They use, Malach to actually have in their Bible that, the Apostle Paul called himself Malach. So I could deal with angel. So what? I mean, it just is Malach. The Apostle Paul in the Hebrew New Testament, again, calls himself Malach. Okay? Never forget that. Okay, so that's basically, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, number 6. Energe ha Michael. I mean, well, that's the coup de grace for the witnesses, but that's not here. It's just best case scenarios for the Jehovah's Witnesses. We have to placate them from time to time, but that's not here in the text. That's not here. I already gave you 5. That's 6. It makes it 6, okay? Would that be the coup de grace for the witnesses? I mean, listen, 1, 2, 3, and 6 are damaging. But let's get to another one. 7 is really just a translation of number 1. And it goes something like this. Bereshit bara Elohim hadabar. Don't be the coup de grace for the witnesses. In the beginning, God created the what? The bar, okay, means what in Hebrew? okay, found and recorded in Psalm 33 verse 6 in Hebrew. Okay, logos is there actually in the Greek Septuagint in Psalm 32 around verse 6 or 5. I got to check it out again. It's just something that we already looked at. So those best case scenarios, and I don't think I'm going to mention them again for a while because it takes a lot of time. Because my wife is coming back with my baby, okay, that's going to be a fiasco, And so the thing is that, those are the best case scenarios for Jehovah's Witnesses that are not in any text of the Bible. Any text. More than 30,000 verses of the Bible, give or take a couple of verses, not there. They're not there. You can tell the witnesses that, given to them in Greek, given to them in Hebrew. That's just the deal. You know what I mean? What would it be in that created the sun? Bereshit bara Elohim ha ben. Something like that, right? Ben for sun, right? And so that's just the deal. Being the Hebrew of this text, and I'll mention it one more time, it goes something like this. Bereshit haya hadabar v'hadabar hayaim ha-Elohim va-Elohim wa-Elohim. Really doesn't make a difference to me. Haya hadabar. I already gave you a very funny story of haya, so you never forget it. Okay? One of the meanings of haya means was. Okay? Is also in the imperfect tense like the Greek. Word in is in the imperfect tense. Okay? There's at least five that I could come up with tenses in Greek. The perfect and imperfect, the future, present, and what's the other one? It's just the aorist tense. Okay, so you got those: the aorist tense, the perfect tense, and then you got the future tense and present tense and the imperfect tense. I think I didn't mention that, or the future tense, or whatever the case may be. All right, and we saw the Greek word ein spelled out eta and nu. Nowadays, those letters are called eta and ni. Like I hurt my knee, man. You know what I'm saying? So ein is an Amy word, and it's recorded also in verse 1b and verse 1c. Also, it's found and recorded in verse 2, which is just one lump of a verse. There's no parts to it. Quite different than the Greek word egeneta, and Manchi actually, with another author, mentions that in his Greek commentary of this gospel, the gospel kata Ioannein, okay, according to John. Now we saw that NRK is found a few times in the Greek New Testament, 3 or 4 times, and so you see it here, NRK in the beginning, but there's no the here. Even though the witnesses put a the in their English translation, I don't know why, because if they think that words that are in an arthur state that doesn't have an article is indefinite, well, why put it definite in English style? You see, can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say that theos is anarthros, thus is indefinite, and then you're putting the word the in front of arche, and that doesn't have the article te in the middle of the prepositional phrase and arche. Now we already saw that. Different strokes for different folks. You understand what I'm saying? We saw that prepositional phrases don't need articles, like in verse 4, and auto, that doesn't have a. In him, it doesn't have an article there. It'll be actually to there, because that's a masculine word, right? And in verse Verse 5. Well, it does have the article. It says en te, and that'll be the same article that you would use if you wanted to use it. You don't need to. In verse 1a, en te skatia, in the darkness, okay? In the darkness. It will be there if you needed it. We already saw also that theou, or actually theos, appears in the anarthros state several times, okay? Once in verse 1, another time in verse 6, okay? And that's verse 6 over there. And then you have teu. You see teu right there? Para teu. Preposition para. You see a lot of different prepositions in this prologue. You see para, you see pras, you see en, you see, I believe maybe ek. And so, I mean, you see a whole bunch of prepositions here, Adia actually is shortened to de or de. So, I mean, you see a whole bunch of prepositions, and there were like 17 small prepositions listed in the Manual Grammar of the Greek New Testament by Manti and Dana. I'm going to be mentioning that a lot because that's my favorite. There are also different manuals out there that are great manuals. Basics of Biblical Greek by Bill Mouse or William D. Mouse. Well, that's a great manual. And then, but that just teaches you the basics. But then, he could have taught, more than that, but it just chose to do that. Dan Wallace comes into the picture and teaches beyond the basics in his manual by that title. So if you want to pick up those 3 manuals, you can do that. The one by Bill, the one by Dan, and the one by Dana and Manti. Even though things like punctiliar has changed and stuff like that, I mean, and now the cases are sort of mixed together like applesauce. Instead of having 7 to 8, you have 4 or 5 different cases, which I don't agree with that. I don't agree in teaching like that, because you can have students that are going to look at older materials and they're gonna collide. Okay, so I guess that's like a crosses, right? They're gonna collide with these terms. The locative case, the ablative case, and the instrumental case, and they're not going to know what to do with them because they're just not taught these things now. So what are you going to do when you're looking at the instrumental case? Well, what's that? The case of mean. So the ablative case, what's that? The case of separation. But you're just not taught that these days, because I understand that they're trying to cut the time gap. They're trying to make it easier for the students to digest it, to memorize it, to go on to other things and not really dwell on long paradigms or whatever the case may be. I understand that. But at the same time, it's just like mentioning Star Trek. This is a good example. It's like that they were looking for the shuttlecraft. And the show is called Galileo 7, a masterpiece. I mean, I would give it like a 9 out of 10. And so they were looking for Spock and McCoy and Scotty and a few other people. And they were looking at this galaxy. They had to go through a whole galaxy looking for these people. And, well, they just decided to sort of skip search. And Mr. Sulu said, and I know the problem with him in real life, but anyway, he said, well, you're going to be, missing out on a whole bunch of quadrants or whatever the case may be, but that's what you're doing when you're not teaching several paradigms that can be taught. You don't need to teach every single paradigm, okay, but you're just shortchanging students, especially when they're looking at old manuals, not teaching them all of the cases. I think that all of the cases need to be mentioned that were mentioned years ago, and leave it like that. And then at least you're talking about the instrumental case, a locative case, and the ablative case, which is my favorite case, has to do with separation. Our sins has been separated from us, as like that, whatever the case may be. And so it's a very beautiful case to even talk about, theologically speaking. But alas, they don't talk about that. They blended some cases together and made applesauce out of them, and so you have like 4 cases. They really want to make it 4, but they can't. They can't separate, okay, the vocative, no pun intended, from the other cases in the list. They want to do that. They want to put it down to 4. I'll be surprised if they don't have it down to 3. Okay, and so I mean, they don't want to call the vocative a case, but it is a case. It's a case. It's a separate case. I know there's a debate on it, but that's why they're forced to mention it, because it is a separate case, the case of direct address. It's not the same thing as saying, Susan went to the store. That's not a vocative there. This is nobody talking to anybody there. Susan spoke to Tom saying, "Oh, Tom." Well, that's the vocative. Whether it was special definiteness or it was a special force, it doesn't make it different to me. Inflectional particle omega, with the other little tiny thingies, or the omicron, the omicron nowadays called omicron. Who cares? Okay. Well, that's completely different from being the subject of the sentence, because if you're saying it's exactly, is almost like the nominative, well, then you're saying that Jehovah's Witnesses had an excuse to translate, Hebrews 1:8 in the way that they did it. Okay? That's what we're dealing with. And then I have to deal with, Hebrews chapter 1, verse 8, explaining to the witnesses that the same construction, hatheos, is nominative, the case of designation. You understand what I'm saying? But it doesn't have nothing to do with being the subject of the sentence. He says God is not the subject of the sentence there. Okay? He's not. That's not the issue. A throne is not an adjective describing God, that God is a throne. He's never called a throne anywhere in the Bible. Mary J. Harris brought that up in a book entitled Jesus is God, and it's a subtitle. I kind of forgot the subtitle of it. Masterpiece. I disagree with, his treatise on 1 John chapter 5, verse 20. I believe that the antecedent is Christ that goes with hutos, right, or hutas, But anyway. Energy in halagas kai halagas in prostantean kaiteas in halagas, okay, hutas in energy prostantean. Now what is that? I already mentioned that's not a repetition of verse 1. Okay? There's some repetitions here. Okay, hutas is a proper name referring back to logos. I mean, that's the antecedent of hutas. That's the demonstrative pronoun. You see a kanos around here also. Where's the kanos? You do see a kanos. The other demonstrative pronoun. You see it someplace here. I saw it, in the prologue I'm talking about. Okay? And so I did see it here someplace. So maybe I could run into it a little bit later. And so let's see here, and it's there. I saw a kanos though, so it's just it, and I probably skipped it, knowing my vision. Okay, that's just a deal. So I probably skipped it though, so I'll go back. But I did see a kanos, so you see the. The relative, the not relative pronoun, but the demonstrative pronouns, kanos and hutas here, and it's again. You see it like 6 or 7 times in this prologue. This prologue is an introduction of the Gospel of John. Okay, so also an introduction of the character, the nature of logos and theos. By the way, Holy Spirit is in the background, and he keeps himself in the background because he shall glorify me, said Jesus, not himself. Okay? And you see verse 16 over here. And I probably skipped it though, because I'm not using my magnifying glass to skim through this though. But I'm pretty sure that it was in the prologue though, Ekanos. And so that's just the deal. And verse 17, this is verse 18. That doesn't have a Kanos though, verse 18 though. I probably skipped it. But I think I saw it there. Incidentally, all the Greek letters are mentioned. Okay, the 22 different Greek letters in the alphabet, in the Greek alphabet. When you get to verse 22, then you see the psi there. I see that's not the last letter, but you see all the letters of the alphabet when you get to verse 22. That was just a small thing. 17 Greek words in this first verse, and 18 in manuscript L, which has the article of the weak demonstrative in front of theos or theos. Now, what's the paradigm for logos? That's kind of easy. Second declension word, laga is the root of logos, and they just added a case ending. They put an S on it to put it in a nominative case. They put a sigma there, which means to synchronize, by the way. And I think that's why it's used for the future tense formative. To point out the future in some words that has to do with the future tense, because it means to synchronize. That's just my estimation. In halaga, so logos goes something like this. So the paradigm, okay. Now remember, paradigm means exotic. It means a lot more than what I'm saying, but I'm not going to get into it. It's just too deep for tears. It does mean sort of like a mindset, but it goes, it's very philosophical. I mean, it's just the paradigm is not just what I'm gonna say is much more than that. But the sort of icing of the cake of the meaning is example or model. Okay, and then it goes deeper than that. One's viewpoint or whatever the case may be. That's and how you view things. That's really what a paradigm means. Your outlook on something. But anyway. So the paradigm goes something like this, okay? Lagos, lagu, lagos in the nominative, lagu in the genitive. These are all singulars. Lago in the dative, lagan in the accusative case, and then you get to the plural, lagoi, lagon, lagois, lagus. Arche has also a paradigm, and it goes something like this. I haven't seen it, but my estimation will go something like this. I think I saw basically almost all the words that has to do with this in the New Testament, though I don't think the whole thing appears in the New Testament. Yeah, I have the plural also form, actually in verse 10 of chapter 1 of Hebrews. So you have at least one of them in the plural there. Yeah, but you have arche, arches, arche with the iota subscript like this one, and then archein. Those are the singulars, okay, for the word beginning, or in some instances, rula, okay. Also, you see in the Greek Septuagint, I think arche having to do with the rule of God, that He rules. Okay, and that is, I believe that's in I think like maybe Deuteronomy chapter 32 or something like that, or whatever the case may be. But I gotta check that out because but it does mean rule also. Oxford Dictionary of Greek actually has two sections. Okay, arche meaning beginning and arche meaning rule. Okay, rule. Principalities and powers, or principality is the Greek word arche. Okay, now that's probably in the plural there. That's what I'm saying. I think you see that in Colossians chapter 1 in the plural there. But anyway, it says over here in arche, and it's a preposition, and the object of the preposition is arche. Okay. And it's taking the dative case like prepositions do. They take at least, each of the prepositions take at least one case. Some take two. Some take three. Okay? Now, ain is in the imperfect tense. It's an action that hasn't been completed yet. It's a continuous, the aspect of it is linear. It's a continuous, ongoing, subsistence that is being talked about here. Now, I get the title for John 1:1a from Philippians chapter 2, verse 6, huparkon, subsisting. Actually, an article, is a participle, I should say, there, huparkon. Same word recorded for silver and gold have. You see, have, I none. Not the same construction, probably, but the same what? In verse 6 of chapter 3, Praxis Apostolon, the Acts of the Apostles. Peter said, silver and gold have I none. That's the same word. I'm with R.C. Sproul. I like the word subsistence for God and not existence. Okay, it's like he said that existence comes from like exere, the Latin exere, which means to stand out, implying that God has some sort of beginning. So when you're saying that God exists, you're implying that he had a beginning, had a start. Okay, so I mean, much better. It's much better to say that he subsisted or he subsists. And that's the whole idea of huparkon in verse 6 of chapter 2 of Philippians. And have this mindset in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. Who? Okay, has, relative pronoun. That's a relative pronoun clause. Has and marfe teu huparkon. The idea, okay, is marfe, and teu is modifying that, okay, describing what kind of a form that is. Only 3 times, if you count, okay, Mark chapter 16, verse 12. Mouse actually has it in verse 14. I don't know why he has that in his lexicon. It's not in verse 14, it's in verse 12. But anyway, there's a typo also in the Manual Greek Grammar of the Greek New Testament by Dana Matthew. I mean, diphthong is spelled differently 2 times, okay? It's spelled differently, meaning it's spelled differently, is mentioned twice on page 20, and it's spelled differently. I mean, well, that's an excuse. He had an excuse there at that time. I mean, typewriters and stuff like that. I mean, probably did it with typewriters and all that other stuff, not computers. He didn't have spell check. There's no excuse to make mistakes nowadays. Okay? So anyway, I mean, that's why there are new editions, I guess, And that's why they put, erasers on pencils, And even pens. And archinologos que ologos improstonteon que teosinologos, praise the Lord. And so that's an anominative case. Now, can you believe that one of the committee members didn't know that logos is the subject of the sentence, and he was just translating the Bible? Can you believe that, though? It's hard to believe that a person who grew up in Greece or lived in Greece or whatever the case may be didn't even know that logos, okay, was the subject of the sentence when he was interviewed by Walter Martin. Absolutely amazing. But yet it's not amazing because that's how they are. They just don't know these dear witnesses. That's why we're doing the full Greek construction, not only for us, but for them. And archein halagos kai halagos in prostantean kai teos in halagos. You understand what I'm saying? Prepositional phrase and arche, prepositional phrase prostanteon. Now, why is it theon in John 1:1b and theos in John 1:1c? Is it clearly stated that theon is a greater God than theos because of the construction? No. Doesn't mean that at all. That's just functioning differently in the sentence. One is a predicate adjective, theos, and that's why it's an anarthrous. It's telling you what kind of an adjective it is, okay? You understand what I'm saying? And the thing is that the other construction is telling you that something is in the accusative case construction, okay? The case of limitation as to extent. The extent of the hearing, praxis apostolon, Acts of the Apostles, chapter 22, verse 9. They didn't understand the voice. Clearly translated correctly by the NIV and the NASB, correcting the past mistake of the King James translators who dealt with that and said that they didn't hear the voice. Well, that's a contradiction. You're contradicting, okay, what you just wrote, what the Bible just said, okay, all right, in Acts chapter 9, verse 7. They heard the voice there. Then they didn't hear the voice of contradiction. Contradiction. But the NIV and the NASB, as they do so often, they clean the mistake of the King James translators. They were not infallible people, guys. Okay? Just like Ellen G., what's her name? White wasn't infallible. Witness Lee wasn't infallible. Charles Cesar also, and God knows he wasn't infallible, along with his buddy and pal, his lawyer, Joseph Franklin Rutherford. He wasn't infallible. Joseph Smith wasn't infallible. Muhammad wasn't infallible. They weren't. They weren't infallible people. I mean, Muhammad should have listened to his wife, No, he shouldn't have listened to his wife. He wanted to end it all. And then his wife got into it and said, no, don't kill yourself. I mean, it's just... You know, no, you heard from God. You heard from God. You see, you know. Heard his wife, and then Islam was invented. You know, that's just a deal. Yeah, university, so called. Energía no logos que o logos in prostonte aunque teos no logos. In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God, and the Word was, one translation says, okay, and the Word was the same as God. Or yet another translation says something like this: what God was, the Word was. And yet another translation says something like this: this is Manti, the Word was deity. You see, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. In and of itself, logos doesn't mean divine or deity or anything like that. You need an adjective to describe logos, okay? Who was alongside with theos, according to the viewpoint of Hellenistic Jews, okay? And that's just the deal. Greek-speaking Jews. Energía no logos que o logos in prostonte aunque teos no logos. And that's just a deal. Now we already saw that the anarchic state of theos in this was part C in verse 6. Okay. Verse 6 over here, theo, para theo. It doesn't say para tu theo. In verse, I believe, in verse 12, it has that in an anarchic state, meaning theos or theos. I don't care how you really pronounce that too much. It says it over here. Okay, you see tekna theo. Okay, tekna means children. It's in the plural because of the alpha. Theo, there's no two theo there in verse 12. And in verse 13, okay, also there is no article in front of, okay, now where is it? In the middle of the prepositional phrase, ek theo, okay? There's no two there either. There's no genitive two article there. Okay, you know the article paradigm. Okay, haheta, tu tes tu, to te to, etc. And so that's just it. And we already saw that emerged. Okay, again, it's or became. That appears like 6 or 7 times in his prologue. Never for logos becoming. Okay, just coming into existence. Never. Only the flesh came into existence, and we see that recorded here in the words kai ha logos sarx egeneta. Okay, and sarx is the word for flesh here, spelled out sigma alpha with the graph marker. So it's not sarx, it's sarx. Okay, ro and then kasi. Okay, you see a kasi over here. Which is a KS blended into one. You understand what I'm saying? The squiggly sort of letter right after the P looking letter, which is not a P, it's a ro in Greek. Don't say ro, it's lazy for the Greeks. Say ro. It's like, it's equal to the resh in Hebrew. I mean, not in sounding it off all the time, but just that it's an R. Okay? You see the word egeneta here. The perfect tense form of egeneta is found and recorded in verse 3. Okay, geganen, I believe, something like that. That's in the perfect tense. A reduplicating consonant is pointing out the perfect tense masterfully, easily, clearly. Okay, with a connecting vowel epsilon in the middle of the both of them, like the Greek word tetelestai. The debt has been paid in full. Something like that is in Psalm 22 in the last verse. You understand what I'm saying? Hello? Okay. Now, that's just a deal. Now, I think I said that there's no article in front of Hamin. You know, I still didn't see it. Kanos. I mean, I haven't seen it. See, doxon over here. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Full. I see that word full there. Pleiades. Full of grace. And that's charitas, of grace. That's in the genitive case. So I guess if you take out the omicron and sigma, then you have the root of that word. Okay. Okay. Charit. Okay. And truth. Okay. Aletheas. Full of grace and truth. That's in the genitive. So, and that's really well, the prologue goes on, though. Okay. And talks about John there witnessing concerning petty there. That's another preposition. So this is rich, full of prepositions. Petty, ek, en, para. The title of the Gospel of John, kata, if you want to count that. And then pros. I mean, so you have in dia. So you have a rich supply of prepositions in the prologue. Okay? Now, so basically, and I already mentioned verse 15, and you might want to say this to the witnesses, that's verse 10. All right? That in verse 15, it says something very striking. Someone says something very striking, and that you could use against the witnesses. All right? Let me see if I can see it. Well, there it goes right there. Protos mu, actually, if you just want to, say it in the standard way. Protos mu, before me? Jesus never said that of the Father and him. Never. That the Father was before me. Protos mu? He never said that in his life. Never said that before the incarnation, during the incarnation, even after the incarnation. Never even said it from heaven. When he's talking to the Apostle Paul in chapter 9 of Praxis Apostolonica actually Apostol, in the book of Revelation, he never said that when he was giving revelation to his servant John. Okay? When he gave it, Edoken, I mean, incidentally, two different Greek words appear there in Revelation chapter 1, verse 1. Edoken and another Greek word for show. Okay? Different Greek word for show. They're not the same words. He was given the Edoken, the revelation from God the Father, and then he in turn showed. Okay, and let me check that out. I want to check that out though. Okay, because I wanna actually remember the Greek word there. Let's check. It's very easy because it should be. Is this Alpha? This is the first chapter. It says Apocalypsis, and that anchor-shaped letter. It's not an anchor. It's actually the weapon of the false god Poseidon, the god of the sea. That's his trident. But in Greek, that's a PS letter. You see that in the book of the Psalms. So, I mean, we have to get used to this because that's the first letter in the book of the Psalms in the Greek Septuagint. In some cases, if they're writing it out, in Greek, the word Psalms. Okay? That's a PS. It's called psi. Like oops, flips, pipes, laps, hips, ships. I mean, it's the same sort of thing. It says apocalypsis of Jesus. That's a Yesu. But there's no marker there, so you have to look at Christos, and it's actually Christou. So that's in a genitive case because the same construction is used by two different cases. So there's no article here. There aren't any articles here in front of Christos, which is over here, Christou, and Yesu. It will be tu, Yesu, and tu Christou, but there are no markers, because the article can be a marker, a function marker, how something is functioning in the sentence. You see, So it's much more than just the thing, in Greek. Articles can point out the function of a word. So we don't have that benefit. But the word, the name Jesus is accompanied by his title, Christus. So that's pointing out, the use. Because the word Christ fully inflects, the word Jesus does not. So, if you see Yesu, well, what case is in it? Well, just go by the title. The title's in a genitive case, definitely so. And so, Yesu, that's, even though it's shared by the dative, that's in construction, yeah, that's in a genitive case. Of Jesus Christ, okay. And it says over here, Adokin, okay, gave auto to him, no article there, auto to him, and it says over here, which God gave to him. So, you have to translate the word God gave to him. God you have to translate that first, hatheos. That's the subject of the sentence. Which God gave to him. You understand what I'm saying? Dexai, and that's the word I'm talking about. He showed, okay, Dexai, not the lexical form, but delta, epsilon, iota, Chi, alpha, iota, which he showed, okay, to the servants, okay, tois, doulois, all in the plural, dative, and of him, and autou, that's a third person personal pronoun of him. Okay. So the two different Greek words that I want you to point out to the witnesses is adoken. That's a simple aorist construction. Epsilon there, augment. It's like the ed in English. So the epsilon is pointing out the aorist tense here. Also the stem and stuff like that. Third person ending here. Auto gave to him, rather. God gave to him, hatheos. And then, and he in turn, meaning Jesus, showed, see, dexai, showed his servants. You see, so that's a different Greek word, completely different Greek word. I saw that in George Riker Barry's small Greek lexicon, the difference between the two Greek words. You understand what I'm saying? All right, so let's get out of that and go to, incidentally, I want to show you something over here in Matthew chapter 1, verse 1. And I already did a sort of a mini study within a bigger study of this. Biblos, I used to say biblios, I don't know why. But biblos actually means book. Actually, just book. I mean, this is the word that, that we use for Bible. Biblios spelled out beta, iota, beta, lambda, omicron, and final sigma, or in the modern sense of it all, vita, iota, vita, lambda, omicron, and final sigma. Because the B in modern Greek can be a V also. Okay? So, it's just like in the Hebrew word bevakasha. Debate is functioning there differently. Is functioning like a B and a V, okay, in the same word. You know what I'm saying? Bevakasha. Biblos, there's no article, there's no ha biblos here. But yet, the witnesses said, okay, in their translation, let's see if I can pop that out. There's commercials galore here. They're always, I'm surprised Magic Wheat and Corn are not being commercialized here in the Witness app. You understand what I'm saying? So let's check that out. It says over here, it says the book. Well, wait a minute, there's no ha there. It's an arthrus. Okay. It says the book, but there's no the there. The book of the history or the genealogy of the translation says of Jesus Christ, okay, son of David, son of Abraham. Incidentally, I mean, those words don't inflect. Okay, David, David, Abraham. I mean, they were begotten, right? And then they beget, and it's still the same. Okay, so I mean, it's just the same. It's just the same all across the board. But you see over here that okay, that three times. I guess that's for emphasis. Okay, the word book is accompanied by an article here in English. There's no da according to the Greek over here. You understand what I'm saying? Just poke the bear. No da there. There's no ha. But yet they say da. That's the second time that I caught them saying da, and it's no article. They're right, but I'm just saying, why can't theos be definite? Even though it doesn't have an article. Just like Biblos in Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, tell the witnesses that. And the other one in the beginning. They have it in the beginning. In John's Gospel. But it's not in the beginning. It's not da there. There's no da there. Okay? Kind of hard to spit out. There's no da there. I mean, it's just a deal. You know what I'm saying? Let's go back to this. Now, this is kind of easy. Going back and forth. And this is, to whom much is given, much will be required. I mean, they didn't have apps like that in the old days. Enerche, like this. Enerche, so that's hutas and not the kenas. Enerche in halagas, kai halagas in prostantean, kai teas in halagas, hutos, or hutas. I don't want to make a verb out of it. Hutas ein en arche prostantean. Well, that's saying that theos was also in the beginning, like logos was in the beginning. That's my judgment of this. Okay, but so that's not a repetition, a mere repetition of verse 1. No. And Jehovah's Witness, Mark from Missouri, sassy as he is, okay, Eston, it says, well, wait a minute, it's no verse like John 1:1. Did you ever read John 1:2? Now, I already said it's not a pure repetition of it, but there are repetitions in it, embedded in the text. You never read John 1:2? And now he uses it against me. He never even knew the existence, okay, no pun intended, because you're going to be going to verse 3 soon. Again, it's all across the board. Again, it's Ganin. Then he uses it against me now. That's just it. And archino logos keo logos in prostonteon keteos in the logos, okay? Now, we already saw that the intermediate agent of creation is Logos himself. Okay? Now, it already says in Psalm 33 that the Word made all things. Okay? Let's check that out, though. Let's check it out in English, though, and let's poke the bear here in ASB. A very dependable Bible. Let's check it out. Psalm. Okay, Psalm. And you got the Psalms right there. Okay. And you got Psalm 30 there. Psalm 36 is here. No, but 33 though. Not 36, it's 33 in the English. And then go to verse 6, and then we'll probably see the verse. By the word, and that's logos in the Greek Septuagint, and actually the bar in the Hebrew. By the word, okay, of the Lord, the heavens, okay, were made, and by the breath of his mouth, all their host. Now, I mean, this doesn't refer to the Holy Spirit, the breath of, the breath. Does it say about, Holy Spirit taking part of creation? Okay, understand what I'm saying in verse 3 in John 1. But it says it over here. So you don't need it in John 1, okay, 3. It already said it in the Old Testament that the Holy Spirit had and it's pneuma actually in the Greek Old Testament, Greek Septuagint. from the Latin word Septuaginta, which means 70. XX means 70, also, incidentally. L means 50, and X means 10, and X means 10. Put it all together, what do you got? That's what it's all about. 70. That's just a deal. That hurts, by the way. I do that with my daughter, Okay. By the word of the Lord. I mean, is that logos there? Well, let's check it out. Let's check it out, Don't take my word for it. Let's go to the Greek Septuagint, but Psalm 32. Okay? That's what I'm saying? We're in the Psalms there. So that's kind of easy. Just go back a couple of, times. And let's check it out. Now let's check this out. By the word is tolago. Of the Lord tu kuriu. Okay? Hoi uranoi. And so there is a plural part of the paradigm for heaven. I don't understand why in the world is in the singular tan uranan in Genesis 1:1. I don't understand that. There's a plural part of the paradigm. This is in a dative right over here, dative plural. You know what I'm saying? Or not dative plural, actually nominative plural. Okay, hoi uranoi. That's in the plural. Okay, estere othe san kai to panumati. That's in the dative. And I already mentioned, it's very interesting that, and you can use this for the argument of 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 19, that he was raised in the Spirit, but it could easily be translated, he was raised by the Spirit. You see over here, okay, the translation is by the word of the Lord. Well, in the Greek is to lago. Okay? And they say by there. So, and then you see, where is it? Where's Panuma here? Okay, to panumati. Why is it to also? Isn't panuma a neuter word? Yes, but the paradigm to te to. The same construction is for the neuter, meaning to, as for the masculine. It's only different for the feminine is te, and we already saw that. Okay, in like verse 4 or 5 of the prologue of John's Gospel. You know what I'm saying? Same construction. Panuma, and so the thing is 2% again? Oh my God, I gotta go again. Okay, so I guess I have to do a part 3. But I mean, you see that by the word of the Lord, and by the breath, or by the you can't say really spirit of his mouth, so it's just not proper to translate that spirit, but the spirit of his mouth. But it means spirit also, panuma. So the Holy Spirit had a job in creation. You see that in Genesis chapter 1 and verse 2. Incidentally, in verse 2, it says that the earth was invisible underneath the element of water, a'arata, there. I believe that. I shouldn't go there now, but let me see if I could go that now, and then I'll finish. Okay. And a'arata and parousia never appears together for Jesus or for anybody. Invisible coming or invisible presence. You know what I'm saying? Incidentally, it says parousia that the Apostle Paul was going to make a parousia. Was he? He was invisible. I mean, come on. It says over here, okay, there it goes. A'aratas. Okay. And I believe that's in a genitive. It's invisible. A'arata. Okay. And that was invisible. The gaze says over here, the earth was invisible. It says over here. Or, it just was invisible. That's what it means. Okay? So I don't see this word accompanied with parousia, meaning invisible, and parousia, back to back, and the belly to belly, like John Sterling likes to say of the New York Yankees. I don't see it together anywhere in the Bible, especially, okay, for Jesus' return. The sign of the Son of Man, that he's going to come invisibly on page 2. This is hogwash. This is Angelo Quiñones said by the witnesses. This is Angelo Quiñones giving glory to the God of Israel. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living, and the Necron. The God of Necron, but of the living. Zonton, I think, right? And that means that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were very much alive at the time of Jesus and very much alive right now. And they didn't return to Bethsaida, the house of the princess, like Rutherford said they were going to do. And why only have 2 Cadillacs? Well, what happened? Abraham couldn't drive. He didn't have his license. Isaac was too young. What happened? Jacob stole the car? I mean, what happened, though? I guess so. I guess the witnesses were pulling your arm, pulling your leg ever since they were born. Now, please give me a thumbs up, never a thumbs down. How dare you? And also, this fan is making me cold. That's why I'm shivering. Goodness gracious. Okay. I was complaining because it was hot, and now it's cold, and that's just a deal. But I better go. Give me a thumbs up, a comment, and subscribe to my channel. I better go before the time elapses, and then the battery finishes, and then it's gonna delete the study. So if I'm going like rushing, that's why. Take care, guys. Bye now. Bye. Blessings.